and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné. Our top stories tonight. Sierra Leone confirms Sunday's attack was a failed coup attempt in which 21 people died. Another accident in a South African mine. 11 workers plunged 200 meters to their death when the elevator dropped. The platinum company calls it the worst disaster in its history. And as COP28 is about to open its doors, East African countries are struggling with the effects of climate change. 120 people died in Kenya after heavy rainfalls. Sierra Leone is now treating Sunday's clashes that killed 21 people in Freetown as a failed coup attempt. 13 military officers and 1 civilian are under arrest in Sierra Leone. Antonia Carrigan has more.
Both soldiers and civilians are now under arrest over the violence that shook Freetown early on Sunday morning when gunmen attacked a military barracks and freed over 2,000 prison inmates. As the police continue their investigation, they have now termed the events a failed coup.
Like you rightly say, we investigate an attempted coup. We failed. In the early hours of the 26th of November 2013, a group of people try for use some illegal and overt attempt means for unseat an incumbent leadership by using force.
Among them, according to the Ministry of Information, were retired and serving police and army officers, as well as bodyguards of former President Ernest Bai Koroma. But on the day, Koroma condemned what he called the breaches of state security after security staff at his own Freetown residence were targeted. 1 killed and another seemingly kidnapped. This after President Julius Maada Bio's landslide victory in the June elections, winning him a second term, a result contested by the main opposition, led by Samora Kamara. Sunday comes after a series of coups in West Africa, with 8 countries in the region now under military rule.
And now to South Africa, where 11 miners lost their lives when an elevator carrying 86 workers plunged 200 meters in a platinum mine. The company, Impala Platinum, said the accident in the northern city of Rustenburg was the darkest day in its history. Eunice Masson tells the story.
An investigation is underway to determine the cause of a fatal accident at the Impala Platinum mine in the Northwest Province. Operations at the mine have come to a total standstill. On Monday, 11 workers were killed and 75 injured when the lift they were in rapidly descended. The incident occurred on the eve of the Mine Safe Conference, which focuses on safety and health in the mining sector. The Minister for Resources and Energy, Gwedi Mantashe, visited the site after addressing the conference. He described the site as a disaster and called for an investigation. He also said that the many deaths dented efforts of the country to improve mine safety. Now, South Africa has made significant strides in improving the safety in the mining industry, but it continues to battle the illegal mining operations that still take place. In May, 31 illegal miners died in what is believed to have been a gas explosion. It was not an isolated incident, and many of those deaths go unreported.
Togo's government said next legislative and regional elections will be held, I quote, no later than the end of the first quarter of 2024. Not exactly the promise President Faure Gnassingbe had made in December last year when he said to hold polls within 12 months. The opposition has expressed concern about what they say will be an institutional vacuum.
We are headed towards a constitutional vacuum. Our Constitution requires us to hold elections within 30 days of the end of this Assembly's mandate. Assuming that the mandate ends at the end of December, that means we will have an Assembly which will no longer be based on any legality. An Assembly where the majority that supports the government is, And this means that the government itself will no longer be legal, and Togo's problems will get worse.
And you know the news making the headlines. The Burkina Faso press agency says hundreds of rebels were killed as they tried to seize the town of Djibo. An hour-long assault targeted a military camp, and the UN reported the death of at least 40 civilians. Djibo has been under blockade by rebels for more than a year. COP28 is to begin in 2 days' time. Climate change and El Nino phenomenon have been blamed for heavy rains in Kenya following the worst drought in 4 decades. The latest death toll has now doubled. 120 have been killed, with hundreds of thousands of people homeless. Bastien Renouille is in Nairobi.
The number of people killed by the floods has doubled, according to the Kenyan government. At least 120 people have been killed during the past 2 months, and almost 90,000 households have been displaced by the floods. So at the moment, 11 different ministries are working together to organize the response. They are coordinating with the Kenya Defense Force, with the Kenyan police, and with the Kenya Wildlife Service in order to reach the most affected communities. They have requested the assistance of NGOs such as the Kenyan Red Cross Society. They have asked for the support of humanitarian agencies such as the World Food Programme to reach the most affected communities, and it's very difficult because many are in very remote areas. Let's take the example of Dadaab refugee camp. It's Kenya's most important refugee camp, with hundreds of thousands of Somali refugees living there. The road linking this camp to Garissa, which is the main city in the region, is no longer usable. So it's very difficult to bring humanitarian assistance at the moment, and the situation is the same in several different locations. So the Kenyan government is trying to organize the response. It has already spent 60 million euros to help the most affected counties. It's planning to spend 60 more million euros by the end of the week, as the situation is only getting worse.
And while parts of Kenya is suffering from floods, in neighboring Uganda, nomadic herding tribes struggle to get access to water in a region of Karamoja. Last year, at least 900 people died of starvation there due to meager harvests. Clément Di Roma and Lucy Muyo went to the border between Uganda and Kenya.
In Karamoja, Uganda's poorest region, water points used for livestock have become conflict zones between herding tribes since 2018. In the past 2 years, the Ugandan army has been deployed to put an end to the fighting.
Once rains disappear, water becomes a problem. You may find they keep on stealing each other, even at that watering point. And that's already insecurity, which spills over to other areas.
According to several reports, climate change is causing droughts here. In the past 5 years, the fight over water has killed 3,000 people. The village of Nakapelimuru experienced this violence. The army says it restored order this year, but bitter memories of conflict persist.
We want to see that everybody in Karamoja enjoys a peaceful life.
John Lukure says he lost 30 cows during an attack by the Turkana people, Kenyan herders who crossed the border in search of water for their herds.
Death was everywhere. Our enemies used to come to steal our cows. I used to kill some of them, and they killed some of us. Now it's calmer. There are fewer deaths, and we can finally sleep.
The military has been encouraging the warring sides to hand over their rifles in an attempt to curb the large-scale arms trafficking. They've also been preventing Turkana herders from entering Uganda, but Karamojongs would prefer a less drastic approach.
The solution lies in the hands of the government. The army should allow our tribes in Karamoja to engage in peace negotiations with the Turkana. We would like to tell them that they should not kill herders in Uganda.
With the onset of the dry season in November, the government is preparing for a resurgence of hostilities and has already dispatched reinforcements.
On the continent, the elderly are traditionally looked after by their families. Ivory Coast is now trying a more Western approach, and in September, the country's first retirement home opened its doors. 2 months later, the private establishment is waiting for residents. Clémence Valère tells the story.
On the outskirts of Abidjan, in Bingerville, this retirement home is still waiting for its future tenants. Inaugurated 2 months ago, this renovated and spacious building has 7 adapted beds and staff trained in geriatrics. But despite this, the rooms remain empty because, apart from the cost, in the Ivory Coast, caring for the elderly remains a family affair.
What I do here, I can't do there. Why would I go there? Over there, I'm going to die fast. I want to stay by my niece's side.
For the director of the establishment, it's important to fight the stigma surrounding retirement homes, because for some, sending someone away means abandoning them.
What stops the people who call us from coming to the retirement home is their fear of being judged. They are afraid of how others will look at them. What will my friends say? What will my family think? That's a big part of the reason, in fact.
Fear of elder abuse is also another factor contributing to people's reluctance to go into a retirement home.
I enjoy being with my children. If I'm sent away, though, that's fine. It depends on how the place treats you. If they're not going to slap you on the bottom and tell you, go over there, why are you walking like that? They always do that. Whereas at home, they'll ask me, Mum, what would you like? What's the matter?
To help elderly people in precarious situations, the government launched a program to provide financial and medical assistance to some 200,000 elderly people in 2021, who represent a third of the country's over 65s.
And with this, we end this program. Thank you for watching Eye on Africa. Stay tuned for more news.